it's not actually the amount of sugar. Like if you were to like say, okay, if you eat 50 grams of sugar, then you're going to get cavities. But if you eat 20, you're not. It's not the amount. It's the number of times you're exposing the teeth to sugar throughout the day. So it's about the number of exposures. And what kids do is they snack all day. And it's not really the sugar that's a problem. It's also the carbs. So one of like the worst things for your teeth, for kids' teeth, is like goldfish and pretzels that you eat it and it's stuck all in the grooves of the teeth and it takes a really long time to break down. So that just converts to sugar and then it's just sitting on the teeth and creating acid as the bacteria breaks it down. So you think it's most people think it's just sugar, but it's really carbs too. You have to look out for bars, things like snack bars are like they have sugar and carbs. And yeah, just things that are really sticky. Even like a lot of dried fruits, even though they're like healthier options for snacks, they're so sticky and like they're taking a long time to break down when they're getting stuck on your teeth.
Today, we're thrilled to introduce Dr. Naomi Goldman, a Boston-based cosmetic dentist who combines her passion for beautiful smiles with her incredible journey as a busy mom of 3 little ones under 5. With over a decade of dental experience, Dr. Goldman is dedicated not just to restoring smiles, but ensuring they shine with health and confidence. After earning her Bachelor's of Science in Biology and her doctorate in dental medicine from the University of Connecticut, she has become a well-respected figure in her field. Dr. Goldman is an active member of the American Dental Association, the Academy of General Dentistry, and the Massachusetts Dental Society. She is a fellow in the Academy of General Dentistry and a member of the American Academy of Clear Aligners. Join us as we dive into Dr. Goldman's journey, exploring her passion for dentistry, her insights into patient care, and how she balances the demands of motherhood and a thriving practice. Get ready to be inspired by her commitment to helping others achieve their best smiles. Thank you so much, Dr. Naomi Goldman, for being here today. It is such a pleasure to have you. I love everything about your background, just what you've been able to accomplish, just from everything I've heard and read. And I'm so excited to have you physically here so you can tell us a little bit more about your journey. But thank you for being here. And I would love for you to just kind of dive in and how you got started, essentially, for other people to learn a little bit more about you.
Thank you for having me. I guess I decided I wanted to be a dentist like at a very young age. I was like 8 years old, I think, as far back as I can remember when I decided I wanted to be a dentist, and I never really changed my mind after that. I grew up in a house with my dad being a dentist and my mom was a hygienist, and they owned the dental practice in our town. And my dad's brother's also a dentist, so I just had a lot of like dental influence in my family. Um, so yeah, I never really changed that thought. I applied to dental school right from high school, actually, and was in a combined program for college, dental school, uh, and then went through dental school and then joined my practice like I did 1 year of residency outside of dental school, and then I joined my dad's practice in 2014. So at the time, I think I was 25 when I graduated. And my mom had really been managing the business. So when I started, I just kind of started managing. Uh, they didn't really want to do that part of the work anymore. My dad was seeing patients. My mom had retired from hygiene at the time, so she was just working from home. And so I just started managing the business. And at that time, I think it was like maybe 7 employees. I managed it for about 8 years and just kind of learned how to manage people. I started off with one style that like I thought would work, which was more like old school. Like I tried to be strict because that's what I thought would be good. It was people that I had worked with in a different role my like entire, teenage and college life. I was working in the practice at the front desk. So it was kind of difficult to go from being like their peer to then managing them. That was kind of a weird transition, but I was also younger than everybody, so it was difficult to just step in and start managing them. But what I quickly learned was that like that style just wasn't going to work for me. Number one, it's just not the person that I am. I'm like very non-confrontational, and I hated managing that way. And I just didn't feel like it was really getting any results. Like it was just creating just bad feelings, and just it just I just didn't feel like it was helpful. Um, so I kind of changed how I was managing and thought like I wanted to go with more of a uh, profit sharing type of system, and get people motivated that way. Um, but my parents were kind of against it at the time when they still owned the business. So um, I ended up buying the business from them about 3 years ago now. And that's when everything kind of really started to change. When I was managing the business with their money, it was very different than when I started managing the business with my money. And I never really knew this about myself, that I was a good business person. But it turns out, luckily, I'm a pretty good business person, especially according to my husband, who's in like sales, and he's a manager and he just knows business. So he's like, you just have this intuitive sense for business. And so I'm like, okay, great. I started using this, incentive based way of managing people. And it, along with a few other things, allowed me to grow the business once I took it over um, by like 100% in 2 years. So it was already a very nice dental practice by anybody's standards. Um, but now it is just like completely changed. Not only is it doing better business wise, but it's just like in my mind, we've gone from just being like your typical dental practice where people come in for just a cleaning exam, everything. You have a filling, you have a crown. And now we've like really changed it so that we really educate patients more. We are doing a lot more cosmetics and a lot more prevention based care, which I'm really excited about. And yeah, the whole flow of the practice is just so different than it was just a few years ago. So I guess that's like the 1,000 foot version of the story. But
Yes, I love it. And I love there's so many things that you touched on that I want to touch on, but I love the fact that you had that experience growing up of like that transition from being peers to now managing people. I had that same experience in grad school. I was a student, but I was also the facilities manager. So
mhm,
like professors that were like my professor, but also having to work with them on like budget stuff and like
yeah.
really like complex things once you start to get it. And I was very young as well. And so I can definitely relate to that experience. And I think a lot of people too, like that transitions from what you are to moving into a different role and moving up the ladder in that capacity.
Mhm,
Like it's amazing that you had that like niche right away. You knew, okay, I want to be a dentist from a very
yeah.
young age because a lot of people are, I'm like still figuring out what do I want to be when I grow up. But I love that you had that sense. And even a lot of times, because I hear this so many times from so many of my colleagues and other professionals that have their doctorate and have gone to school for so many years, you're not taught how to run a business. But the fact that you were in the family business, you got to see it firsthand from a different lens, and you
Mhm,
also have that like business as like side to you as well of just understanding how things work, very intuitive of that, because not every like dentist or psychologist or chiropractor or any other kind of profession has that, because you have to
Yeah.
learn that the hard way sometimes. But
Yeah.
did you feel like you've always had that like
I
intuitive aspect?
I've never been in a position where I've had to make decisions that way.
Mm,
I've always been very decisive, I guess,
mm,
is like I could say that.
yeah.
But um, I feel like I'm just good at understanding what would be a good investment. I've been able to pick out things that could help the business grow. And so far, the things that I've invested in have really been like transformative
Mhm.
for the business. So I think in that way, in just understanding people, understanding relationships, um, and just like what drives people, I think those are the things that I'm speaking of when I say like I'm good at running this business.
Yeah.
Um, it's those things that I feel like are my strong suits. Um, Managing is difficult for me though, for sure, because again, I'm like some of my employees just say I'm too nice and I don't say no. It's like because I'm a people pleaser, as I know many women are, it's very hard for me to say no, and I just want everybody to be happy. So that is a place where I struggle for sure.
Yes, and we can't be good at everything, right?
Yeah, no.
But it's also knowing what our strengths are and playing to that, because you mentioned your practice grew 200% since
Mhm.
taking it over and implementing the different strategies that you did have and really investing in the practice in a different way versus like when your parents were running it to now like it's your money and like your investments. What was probably the best investment you've made in the last 3 years since taking over?
Um, there's two that really stand out to me. One is we got an analytics software. So they say like things that are measured grow. We never measured anything prior to that. We just never looked at any numbers. Like there was no data for anything. And now this analytics software has like a morning huddle. So we have a morning meeting every day. We talk about every patient that's coming in. We identify areas of treatment that may not have been completed, patients that don't have appointments. Like it shows us everything. So everything's more organized and just like the workflow is better. And that has helped us like set goals and just like create measurable changes in the business. Um, and then the other thing is that I got a business coach and she is amazing. So she has also kept me really on track and like kept me making goals and just like striving always to do better. So I've had her for also like almost 2 years, I think 2 years. Um, and so, yeah, that has been like really transformative for me. And it has also really helped me in my personal life with the like splitting the business and the personal. She's helping me with that as well.
Yeah. And that's a really important part of it. Just I was just having this conversation a few hours ago about like
Yeah.
work-life integration and how that can really transpire. And I know you have 3 children under the age of 5, which
Mhm.
is just a lot in itself. And I know a lot of mompreneurs listen, but I'm curious how, as a mom of 3 young children and a dental professional running your amazing practice, how do you manage both those demands of your practice and your family life? Do you have any strategies that have been most effective for you?
Yeah, I feel like my strategy is always changing and evolving because, it's like the schedule's always changing and evolving. And my daughter was born like now she'll be 2 in January, but it's like at every stage of her, like when she was a baby I was doing one thing, and when she was like a little bit older I was doing another thing. So I guess it's like being flexible is really a key. And also what I'm working on and I would love to be better at, but I've improved is just setting boundaries on time where I'm working and time where I'm not, because I don't work full time on patients. I work 2.5 days seeing patients. And was spending a lot of my other time, even though I meant it to be with my kids, I was just working. So I was with my kids, but I was also on my laptop, or I was with my kids, but I was on my phone just answering, text messages from the office. And so it was really hard to separate because there was always so much to do. Especially having a coach, and we meet every week, and like there's always new things. I also do all of the marketing for the business. So it's just like all of the social media and all of like the ads and all of it. Um, so it's just a lot. But yeah, creating boundaries is what I'm still working on. Um, but it has helped me just feel like I'm working when I'm working, and I'm with my kids when I'm with my kids. And I don't have as much guilt now as I did when I'm spending time with my kids, because I have things scheduled for certain times when I can get things done. And I just try as much as I can to stick to them.
Cool. I'm like taking mental notes from this because I'm like, okay, my daughter's due in January. So,
Yeah.
okay, well, what are those things? What does that look like for
Mhm.
day to day, and knowing that it's being flexible and adaptable, but really setting that time, because I've heard mom guilt is real
Oh,
and
yeah.
just understanding how you can navigate that. And so many times with a business, you have one thing and then 100 things pop up from that one
Yeah.
thing that you do, especially with marketing, ads, like other things that you're testing, social media,
Right.
all the
It's
things.
endless. It's just what my coach always says is like, it doesn't matter. You will always have stuff to do. Your to-do list will never end. So if you're always just trying to get stuff done, like there will always be things to get done and you will never finish. So if you're waiting for it to finish, like it's not going to happen. So you just have to let it go. And then what I always think about is like, what am I going to feel like looking back? I just constantly keep reflecting, like, am I being the mom I want to be? And when I look back, am I going to say I missed it? Because I know like this time is so precious.
Yeah.
Um, Having little kids is like, it's so short. My youngest is in kindergarten now already. Sorry, my oldest is in kindergarten. And yeah, I am always thinking like, am I spending enough time? Am I going to regret time I didn't spend when I was working? Because the work in the end doesn't matter as much, if we grow the business this year or if we grow the business next year a little bit more, like it doesn't matter. It's these years you can't get back. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I feel like it's something that's very present in my mind, of like even filming multiple episodes just to get things ahead of time, because I know it's going to change and I don't know what it's going to look like when she's here. And I'm sure you didn't know what it was going to look like when you're first
Mhm.
born, your second, your third, and
Yeah.
now how it evolves based off of the life of it, or the stage of life that they're in, and how
Yeah.
can that transpire. But really knowing that the juice is always going to be the to list,
Oh,
more
yeah.
things.
For And I think another thing I noticed was like there were different like seasons of when I felt really motivated to do a lot, and then times when I felt really unmotivated. And it would really scare me when I felt very unmotivated to do anything with the business, because I didn't know if it would ever come back, that motivation. It really happened a lot around different periods of pregnancies, like especially like first trimester of each pregnancy. I was just so tired and just, unmotivated. So yeah, there were different ups and downs throughout having my three kids, but what I found for myself is it always does come back. I just let myself, take a break, take a step back when I'm not feeling motivated, and then just pick up the pace again when I do. And I think just like allowing myself to do that has been helpful for me, because I do tend to push myself, usually too hard.
I can relate. And, I feel like good about what you're saying because I'm like, I feel like I'm starting to get into that nesting phase.
Yes,
I'm like, I don't really want to do a lot.
I
Because
know.
the bigger
Yeah,
you get, the more, like your breath is like you're out
yeah,
of breath a lot and all the things. But
yeah.
you're
You're
right.
just
It's
tired.
knowing that there's different seasons. And I feel like that's even with business too. Sometimes we're a little bit busier than other times,
Hmm.
depending on the season. And I mean, everyone needs to go to the dentist. I'm going to the dentist on Friday.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's important. It's important. And, I kind of want to talk a little bit and shift gears for a second, but even like building your practice, I know you had started it and it's continued to grow and expand since really taking over all of it. But
Hmm.
since we're on the subject of kids, I'm really curious, why do you think it's important to build dental care habits at home and making it fun for your kids in particular?
I think with kids, like when you start young with them, those are the habits that they'll have. If you don't emphasize like the importance of brushing their teeth or flossing at a really young age, I feel like it's hard to start later. Especially when they can like really understand. Like if I was to try and start something with my 5-year old now, he would be like, why do we have to do this? Like, we've never done this before. Why all of a sudden, But now it's like, they obviously we've been brushing and flossing for years, and like now I just tell them, okay, go brush your teeth. They don't really give me much pushback. It's normal. And actually it's crazy to me that when I forget to tell them now, they go do it themselves on their own. And that is like, I'm like, okay, see, I've set up the habits. And that is, I feel like starting it at a young age, it is what you will do for the rest of your life. um, so I think it's really important to do that. As soon as they have teeth, just start brushing and then just keep enforcing it, and just emphasizing how important it is, for them to just keep their teeth clean.
Yeah, absolutely. We got like one of those on my registry, a little like baby toothbrush that's like a
Mhm.
decompressor so she can like start to understand that
Yeah,
right away. So I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm on the good track.
yeah,
Having a new
perfect.
dentist, you know what's going on. So even with kids, just being able to go to the dentist and being prepared for that. A lot of times I see this a lot in just like on videos and just I see it in the stores and whatnot where kids are eating a lot of sugar, more sugar than ever before. And
Hmm.
how do you think sugar impacts the health of a child's growing smile and everything else that they're ingesting as well?
So obviously sugar is not great for teeth. It can definitely cause cavities, but what is really interesting is it's like it's not actually the amount of sugar. Like if you were to like say, okay, if you eat 50 grams of sugar, then you're going to get cavities. But if you eat 20, you're not. It's not the amount. It's the number of times you're exposing the teeth to sugar throughout the day. So yeah, it's about the number of exposures. And what kids do is they snack all day. And it's not really the sugar that's a problem. It's also the carbs. So one of like the worst things for your teeth, for kids' teeth, is like goldfish and pretzels that you eat it and it's stuck all in the grooves of the teeth, and it takes a really long time to break down. So that just converts to sugar, and then it's just sitting on the teeth, and creating acid as the bacteria breaks it down. So you think it's most people think it's just sugar, but it's really carbs too. You have to look out for bars. Things like snack bars are like they have sugar and carbs, um, and yeah, just things that are really sticky. Even like a lot of dried fruits, even though they're like healthier options for snacks, they're so
Oh,
sticky and like they're taking a long time to break down when they're getting stuck on your teeth. Um,
oh,
so I learned this the hard way. Even
oh.
though I brush my kids' teeth, my oldest son, I brought him in at 5 years old. And I mean, I brought him in before that, but when he was 5, I brought him into my office and I took x-rays on him earlier than we usually do. And I noticed he had some cavities between his teeth. on his baby teeth. So of course I can fix the cavities, but for me, it was just so eye-opening because I know that it's not from not brushing, it's from snacking. Because my husband and I are not cavity prone. There's also a genetic component. But like I know it's not the genetic component, and I know it's not the oral care component. It's snacking. And so I just want to emphasize how important it is to really be careful with the snacks. It's better to just if you're gonna have like sugary snacks, I would say try and keep them with meals, because again, you're like minimizing the number of exposures to carbs and sugar. So if you have breakfast, not that like you want to have sugar with breakfast, but say you're having a donut, like okay, it's breakfast. And then like my kids always have dessert after dinner. They have like a piece of candy after dinner every night. But it's like immediately after dinner. So in my mind, it counts as like one exposure. So for me, I've just tried to minimize snacking and change the types of snacks we have in our house. My kids are eating mostly like cheese and applesauce and yogurt, things from the fridge, I think are generally better snack choices. Most of the stuff that you're going to find in a pantry probably isn't great.
That makes sense. Wow, my mind is blown. Like I had no idea. I'm like, but
Yeah.
after this call, I'm like, we need to like be ready for this.
Yeah, it's
You don't think about it.
it applies for adults too. It's the
Yeah.
number of exposures. It's not the amount of sugar.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's really eye-opening. I didn't even like put two and two together, but it's not something like that's ever really
No,
talked about, or like the
no.
exposure piece I think is so key because you like I mean it's just like anything. It's like minimizing that so it's not like just snacking throughout the day and all sugar snacks as well
Mhm.
as and carbs because I didn't even
Yeah.
think of that, but
And there's the drinks too. Drinks, and you're sipping on drinks. That's a problem with sugar, like coffee.
yeah.
Be a killer for people sipping on coffee all day that has sugar. That can really cause some problems.
Yeah, that used to be me.
Mhm.
Times have changed though. And
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that because that just like really gave it an eye-opening experience of how that can really shift and just our teeth because it's so important. It's just like there's so much health in there. Even like going to the dentist, like being pregnant and them telling me just like how your mouth changes or like the exposure through pregnancy as well. But it's just things
Yeah.
that I'm constantly learning. So I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But even moving into a lot of the other patients that you do work with and like that approach that you have is very patient centered. How do you keep that approach in your practice and what steps do you ensure that your patients feel comfortable and valued? Because a lot of people, especially when I was in practice in California, a lot of them were terrified to go to the dentist. There was like a real fear of going to the dentist. How do you really approach that with maybe patients that might feel uncomfortable or they might be new patients in particular, maybe not coming for years?
Yeah. So with our new patients, we have them come in first. We used to have them come just for a cleaning and then they would get an exam, but I felt like that was really short in terms of the time spent with me. So we kind of switched it up maybe a year ago and it's working really well. We have patients come in first for like an hour and a half appointment with my clinical manager, who was my assistant for 10 years. And she does first, she starts with a 3D scan of their teeth. I don't know if everybody's familiar with 3D scanners, but basically, it's like a camera that creates a digital model of your teeth on a big computer screen. So we kind of start with that. And she also takes some x-rays and she goes over everything in so much detail. She shows them all the things on the screen. And she explains, she looks at their like oral hygiene. You can see everything. So like the patient education piece that she's doing, I feel like is so valuable for people. She's also just really good with people. So she makes people feel comfortable. And then I go in and I reiterate all of the things that she said. Like we meet beforehand, we talk about the patient, we go in together. And I don't know, I guess, how to explain how we make people feel comfortable, but I have so many patients that have anxiety. And I don't know if it's just like the way you speak with someone. I mean, it's the bedside manner, but we have a lot of patients that leave reviews and say, like, I was so nervous before coming here, and now I just like don't have that kind of anxiety. They become patients for life because we just treat them really nicely. We don't hurt them. We make sure not to hurt them because we are all a little bit dental phobic. And I've never even had a bad dental experience. My dad was my dentist, like, didn't have any problems. But still, I don't really like needles. I don't really like when someone's drilling on my tooth, so just being empathetic. Everybody has their own story about why they stayed away from the dentist. So just kind of like listening to what has happened to them in the past and just reassuring them that it's not going to happen. I feel like it's just taking the time, really, just taking the time to hear them, to allow them to feel comfortable and just understanding whatever their barrier is to care and then addressing that. So yeah, so that is, I feel like, big picture. We focus a lot on education through that 3D scanner tool, and then just cater to the patient. We have a lot of different little cute ideas like that make it a little bit more personalized in our practice, like sending thank you cards to all of our new patients, like handwritten cards. They get like a personalized gift based on a question that's on our new patient form, and they get like a new patient bag and like, just with a bunch of like cool little goodies in there. So we've kind of just come up with ways that would make the experience different from just a typical dental office.
Absolutely. And I feel the compassion too, just like the personalization of just letting them know that they're valued in this community now. They're part of the family, it seems like, and
Yeah,
just based off of how you approach it. And I think it is important to spend a little bit more time and have that conversation. Find out what their experiences were like before, especially if they're anxious about it coming
yeah,
in. But I love that you like the component of education, because you've said that earlier too, and how that really plays such a huge part in the shift since taking over, as well as growing the practice. And I feel like the more knowledge we have and like the informed decisions we can make when we know what we're walking into, or understanding, okay, this is why we're going to do this and this is why you need this, versus just like you
yeah,
have to do this, like
yeah,
actually giving that time and energy to it and feeling seen and heard as a patient. I'm
right.
sure each and every one of your patients feel that way. And I know part of just even growing a business, you're constantly learning and growing yourself.
For
And
sure.
as a member of a variety, there are so many things that you're a part of when it comes to dental associations. How do you stay current with advancements in dentistry? And how do you continue that education? And why do you think it's important for entrepreneurs in any field to continue that education?
Um, the way that I do it, I go to a lot of meetings, I guess, and I'm also just involved in the community. So I hear a lot. Um, I hear a lot from a lot of different specialists and other general dentists, and just kind of like networking with different people. I find out about like really good courses that they've gone to. Also talking with our local dental reps, they often drop off like tons of CE that we can do. So just kind of like picking through that. But yeah, I mean, we have a lot of obviously reps that come in and show us new products as well. So yeah, we have lunch and learns all the time with the reps just to keep seeing all the new products that are coming out and deciding if it's good for our practice. Um, yeah, does that answer your question? I don't know if there was
No,
like
that's
multiple parts to the question. I'm trying to think if I answered them all.
yes, yeah, just like even with like other entrepreneurs, but you answered that, just like being in the community, networking,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
getting to know, like having lunch and learns to continue to not only educate yourself, but your staff, and continuing to
Yes.
grow and evolve from that. Because I think any entrepreneur, even if you're a solopreneur, just how you can continue to stay current in emerging like markets, whatever market that is. But I think it's
Hmm.
relatable to every single person of what you said, because I think it always comes down to community, whether it's in person,
Right.
network, everything like that can continue
Hmm.
to evolve. And we're always evolving. I don't think we ever stay stagnant.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. That's the hope. That's the hope.
Yeah.
Can't speak for everybody, just us at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just even like building a practice and continuing to see it grow, and the fact that it has grown so much since taking over. I'm curious, what has been the biggest challenge you had to face as you've navigated taking over the practice and really navigating it to the way it, or where it is now today?
Um, well, part of it is there were some, it's just working with a group of people. Some people were more resistant to change than others. So there was like different things that happened within the business where there were it was like kind of like a turnaround where some people left and then we had to hire a different group of people and kind of look for people that fit with the new vision of the business. um, so that was one thing, but it also happened with the patients, because some patients didn't like the direction that it was going. They liked how it was before when my dad ran it, and they just like it's not for everybody, I guess. Even though I love it, and I'm like, what
That
could be
matters.
bad? But everybody has a different vision. So yeah, so there was the same thing with that, and some patients left because it was very different. Um, I I think what happened was we started attracting like a different um, age group, especially because of the cosmetic aspect of the practice, and especially because I market mostly on social media, where like the new patients that are coming in are a lot younger, and a lot of patients that left were older patients that just kind of felt like it was too much for them,
Mhm.
especially with all of the new gadgets. It was uncomfortable for them.
Nice.
So, which is understandable. But that was definitely a challenge. And the other challenge was dental insurance. That
Mm.
was something that we used to be in network with a lot of different dental insurances, meaning we had a contract with them, and you basically accept the fee that they provide in their contract. So we have made the shift to be out of network with all of the insurances. And that was because there's a lot happening in the dental industry where some dental insurances are actually lowering their reimbursements to dentists over time. And it's become, I feel like there's kind of a divide happening where a lot of private practice dentists are just going out of network, and a lot of corporate dentists are staying in network and just kind of growing in the volume business. Um, and so because I really didn't want to be a volume business, I wanted to be a more like take my time, educate business. It just became not, it didn't make sense anymore to just continue to take all of those contracted fees. Um, and so again, we lost a lot of patients doing that and had to grow it back. But I think it's it was growing it back with a group of people that valued what we were offering. And so for me, that's what I wanted. That was the biggest risk I took, though, that
Mm.
because it was like more than half the practice of patients that had insurance. And it could have gone differently. It could have been catastrophic. Luckily, we have really great patients that value the care, and a lot of them stayed despite the change. So, but yeah, I would say like that was the most difficult choice I had to make so far.
Yeah, and I think that's a real thing. I saw that like in the therapy field, like reimbursement just like continues to go down and down, and now it's just keeping people out of pocket because it's just the value that you're bringing in instead of volume. Not that you're not bringing value when you have a lot of volume, but it's
Yes.
based off of what the necessities are, the priorities are, and the goals are of the practice. And I think a lot of people like finding a good dentist can be really challenging. I've had some not so great experiences. I've heard some horror stories from others, but when you find a good dentist, you want to stay. You will do whatever it takes to stay at that place because you feel that trust that has been built and you know you're going to be taken care of. I think
Right.
that's the bottom line. But
Yeah.
even with just establishing yourself as a cosmetic dentist, because there's so many different types of dentistry and like what you can have, how did you really identify your brand identity when you did start to really shift everything in the business?
I would say the branding changed when we redid our website a couple of years back. I knew I wanted to create like a really nice custom website, and I was working with someone that was amazing in designing websites. And she asked me if I wanted to rebrand. And I had never really thought about a brand at all, because we were like a dental office. I'm like, what do you mean a brand? Um, and it was around the time when I started posting on social media and like creating a presence on Instagram. And I had heard like you can just be your own brand, like you are the brand. So she I guess rebranded the office. So she created like a whole brand package for us, and we changed the name to incorporate my married name, which wasn't in the practice before, but I kept my maiden name in the practice too, because that was my dad's, it's my dad's name and that's what people knew it as. So, yeah, we just kind of rebranded it and just made it like the whole vibe was supposed to be more like upscale, spa like. So like the whole website is geared towards like a cosmetic spa like focus, and just like providing this like nice relaxed environment for dental care. um and then like once we had this website, it was like, okay, so like we created like a comfort menu, and like just kept going with that spa vibe. We renovated the entire office and like just kept going with all of the colors that she created and the logos. And then we started making like products with our logo on them, and that's what we give out to the patients, like the bags and like glasses and chapstick and all of that. So yeah, so like it's just really taken off since I redid that website. I guess that's where it started.
Yeah, and I love that it evolved too. It wasn't just like overnight, but it just started, the pieces were coming together as it evolved because sometimes people do everything at once, but I feel like sometimes that gradual aspect, there's no right or wrong way, but it's
Right.
like what feels right for you, the brand for the environment, the space, everything, and also for your patients too. It all
Mm-hmm.
comes together. But I love that. And you know, you mentioned earlier with the lunch and learns, just emerging trends and things that are happening or products. What do you see emerging in the cosmetic and restorative dentistry that should like entrepreneurs in the health sector be aware of?
Non-invasive treatments.
Mm.
That is it. It is all about non-invasive. Like no one wants anything invasive, because there are so many ways to get a really nice looking smile without destroying your teeth now. So I mean, obviously things like first Invisalign, just moving your teeth into a better position is going to make them look so much better. And then you have no prep veneers or composite veneers. Both options can be completely non-invasive where you don't even touch the tooth. I know
Oh,
no prep porcelain veneers are very, like you have to have a certain type of tooth position in order to do them, but
yeah.
composite veneers are even more kind of adaptable for more people. Um, so where most people think like if I want veneers, I have to shave my teeth down to these tiny little nubs, it's just not the case anymore. There are ways to do it without doing that. There are so many different whitening products out there, both professional and at-home whitening products. And I do a lot of other non-invasive procedures like white spot treatments, where people that just have like decalcified areas in the middle of their teeth, we can remove them without drilling. Um, I've had patients come to me and tell me like, oh, my front tooth is chipped and my dentist told me there was nothing I could do about it. So just like small non-invasive bonding procedures, closing spaces with filling material when you have a space between your front teeth. There are so many, I do so many non-invasive cosmetic procedures these days, where I'm like barely touching the teeth. And um, I'd say that is what is up and coming, because people are very aware of like all of the procedures that are out there now.
Yeah.
And they do their research, and they're going to be looking for people that can do it non-invasive because it can be done. So
Yeah. I love it. I mean, like, I just learned some new things too, but you're right. It's like the less non-invasive, it's just protecting the teeth, protecting like the energy around it, because it can be really overwhelming if you have to like go under in order to get a surgical procedure done, if
Mhm.
there's another way. And I
Yeah,
feel like it's important for people to do their own research, but I do believe more people are, and they're looking for individuals like you that like actually are doing it. So it's good to know there's at least one of you out there. I'm sure there's
no, there's a lot. I'm sure there's a lot.
yes, I'm sure there is too. But I love that, because I think it's things you don't really think about on a regular basis, but if it is impacting how you show up when you introduce yourself, when you smile, like that can really make such a big difference and how we move through the world, because
It's
we can be so
huge.
self-conscious about it when nobody else might notice it, but we might notice it more so.
Hmm.
You know, it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
And then just looking ahead for everything that you've already accomplished, I feel like there's so much more you're going to accomplish, but what does the
Thank
next
you.
year or two look like for you, your practice? What are you hoping for?
Um, I would love for just continued growth of the practice. Just I've really enjoyed actually the management aspect. I was just actually talking with my coach about it the other day, about it, how much it surprised me. And for me, I would love to just do cosmetic treatments and to find ways to manage the business. Um, as much as I love just dentistry in general, my real passion is in cosmetics. And if I have to choose where to spend my time, I'd like to choose to spend it there. And then I also just, yeah, I love the marketing. I love just like looking at data. I'm a real numbers person. So like that really excites me. I like thinking of creative ways to just like move things around and like invest in certain things and like what it's going to bring back. Um, and also just investing in my employees. So I've like looked at different ways to like help improve their lives as well, like what they want in their personal lives and their professional lives, doing things together for the community. We do a lot of things like that, like donations and just like little events for the community. So just kind of like growing all of it. That's what I want to do.
Mm, I love it. And I can't wait to see it continue to grow. It's already grown so much in just a short period of time, but how much more can happen, especially if your focus is on the things that really light you up. It gives opportunity for other people to shine in different ways too. So like everybody can grow and thrive together within the community as well. And online too, because you have a big following on social media as well. And with just everything that you've talked about, I mean, I feel like there's so many more things that I personally want to know, but we'll stop there. But I want to know, where can people find you, find your services? We're going to link everything below, but if you could let us know too.
Yeah, so our website is levygoldmandentistry.com. And then I am usually on Instagram. I am checking my messages every day. and that's at Dr. Naomi Goldman. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out there. Happy to answer any questions you have or any tips or anything like that. Happy to share.
Well, thank you, Dr. Naomi Goldman, for being here today. I know I learned so much just about things that I'm like going to implement immediately and tell my husband we have to do. Just things I never thought of, and also for our daughter. But thank you again for just taking the time to share your journey, the ups and downs, things in between, but all the success as well. And I wish you the best success moving forward in addition to that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment below. What was the biggest takeaway from Dr. Goldman today? I'm sure she would love to see that comment, and we will see you on the next episode.